Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I often think of crime as something that lurks in the shadows, down dark alleys and in forgotten corners of the city. But what if the most terrifying stories unfold not in the darkness, but in the bright, sterile light of a suburban home? What if evil isn't a stranger, but the person you share a bed with? Today, we're going to Austin, Texas, to a quiet little house on a seemingly ordinary street. A house where one evening, a simple cup of tea was served, and with it, a final, chilling resolution. This is the story of Emily, a 33-year-old homemaker. On the surface, her life looked like a page from a magazine. It's a perfect lawn, the tidy kitchen, but behind the closed doors, her life was a repeating cycle of fear. It started with morning coffee, moved through, and always ended with her husband Mark's anger. Mark wasn't just a husband, he was a warden. His world was built on control, his language was suspicion, and his voice was a weapon. Every night the house would shake with his shouting, and in the space between his roars, there was only Emily's suffocating silence. It was a silence that spoke volumes, filled with unspoken words, swallowed tears, and a growing sense of dread. For years, this was her normal. A normal that was slowly, methodically erasing her. Then, one afternoon, a small crack appeared in this bleak reality. Emily's best friend Rachel came over. Friends can be a lifeline, a mirror that shows you the truth you've been avoiding. Rachel looked at Emily, not just at her face, but into her eyes, and saw the exhaustion, the fading light. She took her hand and said the words Emily had been too scared to even think. "You can't keep living like this. Emily, listen to me. One day, this man will destroy you." Emily just offered a small, sad smile. It was the kind of smile you give when you do and have the energy to explain the complexities of your prison, but her eyes told a different story. For the first time in a long time, there wasn't fear in them. There was something else, a quiet resolve, a calmness that was almost unnerving. It was the look of someone who had just made a final, irrevocable decision. The storm inside her had passed, and what was left was a deadly, quiet certainty. Rachel left that day criterios worried than ever, unaware that she had just witnessed the moment the victim decided to stop being a victim. That very evening, the routine of the house began as usual, but with a terrifying new undercurrent. Emily went into the kitchen to make tea. Her hands, which had been so steady and practiced in damachi chores, trembled just a little. A slight, almost imperceptible tremor. But her heart was a stone. It didn't race, it didn't pound, it was still. In the living room, Mark was in his usual spot on the couch, his throne of anger yelling at the faceless people on the television news. He was oblivious. He was so consumed by his own rage that he could unsense the monumental shift that had occurred in his own home. The water in the kettle began to scream, reaching a rolling boil, a sound that, on this night, felt like a premonition. Emily calmly poured the steaming water into 2 cups, not 1, but 2. She carried the tray into the living room, the clinking of the porcelain mugs, the only sound besides Mark's angry tirade. She placed them on the coffee table, right in front of him. Mark, momentarily distracted from his TV-fueled fury, picked up his cup. He took a long sip, the warmth spreading through him. He grunted, a rare flicker of something other than contempt in his voice. "This actually tastes good today," he said, almost surprised. Emily, standing there in the dim light of the living room, whispered back, her voice barely audible over the television. "Yeah. It's the last one I'll ever make." The words hung in the air, unheard, or perhaps unheeded. Mark took another sip, settled back into the couch and returned his attention to the screen. He had no idea that those were the last words his wife would ever say to him, that the strange, pleasant taste in his tea was the taste of his own end. The next morning, the neighborhood's quiet was shattered by the piercing wail of sirens. Blue and red lights danced across the windows of the perfect little house. Police officers breached the front door and found a scene criterios eerie than any they had expected. Mark was on the couch, looking as if he had simply fallen asleep watching TV. But he wasn't asleep. He was dead. And on the coffee table sat 2 teacups, both of them used, both of them empty. The house was searched from top to bottom, but there was no sign of a struggle, no sign of a break-in. And, most importantly, no sign of Emily. She was gone, vanished as if she had never been there at all. The toxicology report came back days later and confirmed what the investigators had suspected. Mark's system was flooded with a potent, fast-acting poison, a poison that had been mixed into his tea. Bah. But this is where the story takes a turn that baffled everyone. The lab tested both cups. The poison wasn't just in Mark's cup. It was in both. Emily had poured herself a poisoned cup of tea as well, and judging by the dregs, she had drunk it. Did she plan to die with him? Was this a tragic final act of a woman? Shay couldn't see any other way out. The questions multiplied, but the one person with the answers was missing. For weeks, the case was all anyone could talk about. The media gave it a haunting name, The Last Cup. The story polarized public opinion. To some, Emily was a cold, calculating killer, a black widow who had carefully planned her husband's murder and her own escape. They painted her as a monster hiding behind the facade of a battered wife. But to others, she was something else entirely. They saw her not as a killer, but as a survivor. A woman pushed to the absolute brink, who chose a desperate, terrible path to freedom. In their eyes, her act wasn't just a crime. It was a rebellion. Final, desperate scream from a woman who had been silenced for too long. Was she a villain or a victim who finally fought back? The debate raged on, in coffee shops, online forums, and on a 24-hour news cycle. Then, 2 months later, just as the story was beginning to fade from the headlines, there was a break. It came from a place you'd least expect it. A grainy security camera video from a desolate gas station near El Paso, hundreds of miles away, close to the Mexican border. The footage showed a late-night bus pulling away. A figure steps off, cloaked in a baggy hoodie and hidden behind dark sunglasses. The person moves the camera, and for a split second, they turn their head. They look directly into the lens. And in that brief, frozen moment, it's unmistakably her. It's Emily. Her face is thinner, her hair is different, but those are her eyes. And on her face, there's a ghost of a smile. It's not a happy smile, not a triumphant one. Something quieter, more profound. It's the small, subtle smile of someone who has carried an unbearable weight for years and has finally put it down. It's the smile of someone who is, for the first time in a very long time, free. And that's where the official story ends. The police file remains open. Emily was never caught. She dissolved into air, a ghost with a new life goosher, somewhere out in the world. Her image from that gas station camera is the last we ever see of her. It leaves us with so many unanswered questions. How did she survive the poison? Did she drink a non-lethal dose, just enough to make it look like a double attempt? Or did she have an antidote esperando? Was her escape meticulously planned, or was it a desperate, impulsive flight into the unknown? We may never know. But it forces us to confront a much deeper, more uncomfortable question. That sits at the very heart of this story and at the intersection of law and morality. We know what she did was a crime. The law is clear on that. But when you look at years of silent suffering, of fear, of being slowly extinguished day by day, it makes you wonder. If you were in her shoes, pushed to that same edge, what would you call it? Justice or a crime? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. This is one of those stories that really sticks with you. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story as compelling as I did, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel for more content like this. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.